Michael Kavanagh, the Chief Executive of the Compliance Institute, is with us because you're part of a major international survey of employees conducted late last year by the Institute of Business Ethics. It's found some really interesting things. Top 3 employee concerns for the future: unethical use of AI, such as discrimination or privacy breaches, AI replacing human jobs, and increased workplace surveillance and monitoring. Tell us first about this unethical use of AI.
Yeah, good afternoon, Matt. And this, certainly there was a surprise in some of this because there was a whole range of options here that employees could respond to. And indeed, 750 in Ireland took in this survey amongst 12,000 worldwide. So effectively the top 3, as you said: misuse of AI for unethical behaviour and the fear of AI replacing jobs. So AI coming to the fore there. And in effect, it doesn't go into the detail of that, but if we surmise some of what that means around what it could in practice mean, we have heard around this bias around hiring algorithms and potentially racial or gender profiling and that sort of thing.
So a lot of employers are using it, aren't they, to weed out CVs at this stage?
Yeah, they are, absolutely, yes. And any HR company would tell you that they are actually actively using it at the moment.
Is that because an awful lot of applicants as well that are using AI to actually fill in their applications?
There is certainly evidence of that from talking to HR professionals, but somebody on the other side who has recruited people, you can certainly spot those ones fairly easily. Whenever you bring somebody for an interview, that they're wasting their time if they've used AI, because of course a robust interview isn't going to, you can't rely on AI for verbals.
But that then now suggests, though, that it might only weed out people getting to a certain stage, but to get the job, you are actually going to have to present in person, and then you will be found out. So the decisions won't be made by AI, they'll still be made by people.
Absolutely, and I think that's across the board, Matt. From talking to the heads of compliance in some of the major financial services sector companies, AI is going to be used as a tool to do a lot of the preliminary work, if you like. So in a compliance context, it's that onboarding. And this hasn't happened yet, by the way, and I'm surprised it hasn't been used more. But that onboarding process where you go into the bank and you have to, and we all get these letters now and again that we have to supply our passport photos, our proof of ID and all of that. That's a very cumbersome manual process, both from our point of view and also the compliance professional on the other side's point of view. So it is expected that AI will be used for that type of thing. But ultimately, judgment will come into play and decisions will have to be made at a human level.
It's interesting as well, though, that people seem to be looking at the glass being half empty when it comes to AI rather than being half full. So there seems to be concern about replacing jobs rather than actually making the jobs easier or better.
Yeah, and I think, again, that contrasts somewhat with what I'm seeing in practice from talking, as I said, to heads of compliance and compliance teams, and indeed from our own short programs and courses that Compliance Institute are running. That was a fear. That fear is dissipating somewhat. I'm also happen to be on the Council of Chartered Accountants Ireland, and you hear that in the accountancy profession as well, that sort of fear that AI is going to take your job is going. But that's not what this survey is saying, and I can only surmise that it's because this is a very widespread survey across sectors, across locations, and much wider than perhaps the professions, and therefore there is a fear, and that's what the survey is saying. I mean, that it's fairly robust.
And then what about this thing about increased workplace surveillance and monitoring? What type of workplace surveillance and monitoring? Are businesses putting in cameras to watch their staff, or are they using their computers to actually see what they're doing on them, or they have programs to see what people do on their keyboards?
Again, surprising finding from this, that came up third, that the employees would have that fear, and I think that merits further investigation, because all we have is the raw data here, and I would possibly be linking, if I was to link that with the use of AI and the fear around the use of AI in an unethical manner. And perhaps that is the case, that there's a fear from employees that they are being monitored, that their emails are being monitored, that their digitization and digital tools are being monitored, etc. That is really.
And I wonder then, do they fear that it's happening if they're working from home as well?
Yeah, I think that is a factor as well, the whole working from home, the remote working side of things. Because in fairness, employers have to put in processes like that to see that employees are not just
Well, if they put software on people's home computers to help them do their work, for example, could it be that that software also sees what else those people are doing on their home computers?
Yeah, well, I mean, in fairness, laws and GDPR rules come into play here.
Assuming that the person finds out that their employer has done that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, again, what we're seeing here, it would appear, is a fear that this is happening from employers, and it would suggest that there's open communication needed, more communication between employer and employee, more training, more processes put in place, and in particular training around various aspects, I think is hugely important in this regard.
One final one. That the study found that women are more likely to perceive a decline in ethical behaviour within their organisations since the pandemic. What's that about?
Yeah, so that is the other part of the survey that talked about 9% of women suggesting that they see a decline in ethical behaviour as opposed to 6% of men. And I think, Matt, this is a widespread survey. This is one aspect of it, but we have seen gender differences in speaking up, for example, was another aspect of this where women felt, and this was the finding, that women were less inclined to believe that something would be done if they whistle blew or spoke up. And indeed, another aspect of the survey about ethics and ethical behaviour in the workplace was around bullying and discrimination, and gender again came into that, where women felt they were being discriminated against more than men. So that is certainly one aspect of this as well.
Thank you very much, Michael Kavanagh, Chief Executive of the Compliance Institute.